everything is going to become much more determined by how you build up sort of like strengths within the community at a local level. The economy, is really important, and to try and find a new economy is where, I think organisations have vision should be looking at, because now its responsibility is not just about the city centre, it's about the whole of the rest of the city. And if you try and roll out the city centre model out into the inner core and into the rest of Liverpool, it's just not going to sit right with it. From the top-down perspective, then the people that actually hold the purse strings, the gatekeepers, and the people that are shaping the policy and the direction of the future of Liverpool's regeneration, have really got to make that connection with what's going on the ground in communities to see how they can meet what's actually potentially coming up from a grassroots level, and to get into dialogue and to try and find a solution that isn't just always focused around the city centre, about gateways and all the rest of it. Everywhere's a gateway into the city in some form or another. Climate change, peak oil, and also the credit crunch. And these three things are sort of like defining moments when you've got sort of like a downturn, and when you look back at the regeneration and where the effort has been expended. Sure, it's great to have a new city centre. Great, it's good to sort of like think about what a city in the beginning of the 21st century can offer. And Liverpool has probably taken what other cities and other models, etc., and tried to apply it in a Liverpool context, building on its strength. Like heritage is obviously a huge strength, which the city centre has, and in terms of buildings, also being able to exploit the capital culture here, and in terms of being able to market the Liverpool sort of place within Europe, within the world, etc., has been very useful. But the new economic sort of scenario, which is sort of like emerging, is showing that you need to work in a much more sort of cooperative and sort of like collaborative way across all the sectors, not just like sort of like the public and the private, but you also got to bring in the sort of people, if you like, into that mix as well, and to respect such communities across the city, and really to sort of engage much more with them. In fact, I'd say that now when the whole economy is becoming, in terms of the sort of global nature, the focus is becoming much more on sort of localization, is to, in terms of any future sort of regeneration, it really has to start looking out into the communities and looking what are the assets, what are the strengths there within the people. Economic growth is an issue because it doesn't sit well with climate change, and there's a conflict going on there. If you try to match growth with trying to deal with climate change, you've got a problem. So maybe you need to start looking at a different model, which is climate change is a reality, and it's not going to go away.
That's your head, yes, right there.
It's like building design, etc. Building design, whether it's within the city centre buildings or whether it's within HMRI areas, they haven't really taken into consideration, the question of energy and power, and the opportunity that could actually create in terms of sort of like finding ways to generate power, so that you can help finance projects, help finance communities, and all the rest of it. How you can bring down, fuel costs and bills and things. So there's sort of infrastructural investment which could have gone on in the last few years, which could have, if you'd like, looked at other countries like Holland or Germany, or Scandinavian, you looked at maybe some of the infrastructure they've put in and how to deal with climate change, then we haven't really sort of like dealt with that. And also, we're on the sea, on the coast, on the river, potentially rising sea levels, and if we're continuing to sort of build major projects along the waterfront, that's something again which needs to be looked at. So in terms of sustainability of some of the projects, I think in the present sort of like situation in terms of the climate change, and then the way that that's being designed hasn't really sort of accounted for that threat, if you like. The first place you're going to feel it is the first place you're going to feel this effect is going to be in the construction sector. We're already seeing companies in trouble and unable to complete projects. Interestingly, for example, the King's Arena, which I think has been a really successful sort of like project for the city, but half of that King's Dock is residential, and yet it's still, it's not in place. There's problems with the companies that were going to deliver it. So the chain of finance and developers and construction companies is sort of like unravelling, if you like. I think that's the first place where you're going to start to see evidence of it anyway. The other area may be in terms of the retail, maybe be within the city centre, as everything has a tendency to move into the new Liverpool 1 area, the Grosvenor scheme. Then maybe what people are concerned about is the fact that you're going to start to see retail closing down in other parts of the city, in the existing main retail areas, for example. But at the moment there are projects which are in place, like around St John's Market, Clayton Square, which I think trying to sort of like spread that, but keep the retail sort of like spread across the whole of the city centre, so that there's something going on. As you walk around now at the moment, yes, you have seen a few places shutting down, as you've seen businesses relocating into the Grosvenor. But interestingly, you've been to see that new businesses are actually moving into that. So in the short term, it doesn't seem to be affecting retail at the moment. The only area it might be affecting is like small independent retail, maybe when you're looking at Bold Street or you're looking at Renshaw Street, around the fringes of the main retail area. Then maybe there's an issue there. But it could also create opportunity as well. But at the moment, I think that it's mainly is in construction. We haven't seen any huge closures of companies within the city centre so far, which is really good. But in terms of the financial sector, no, sure, there aren't any a large number of firms within the city. There are a few.